Hi everyone, and welcome to the All Things ITSM Global Podcast. We're coming to you from BMC Engaged in Las Vegas. I'm Kirsty McGowan, I'm here with Charlie Betts. Hey Charlie.
Hello.
Nice to have you on board.
Thank you, good to be here.
Carlos Casanova.
Kirsty.
And we're speaking with Rodger Devillier from Maryville.
Yes, hi
Nice
Kirsty.
to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Roger. So, the industry's changed quite a bit. It's a lot of things coming up, the DevOps movements, cloud and whatnot. How do you see that affecting your clients? What are the challenges they're running into? What are the benefits, the trends that they're trying to accomplish with, some of these new things coming on board?
Sure, that's a great question, Carlos. Our clients are really trying to understand what it means to them, I think would be the best way to describe it. So DevOps and cloud management, for example, they have a lot of legacy, a lot of complexity that they want to evolve to optimize and to be more efficient. They want speed and agility, but they're trying to understand from an organizational aspect what this really means to them. How do they adapt to embrace these shifting times of speed and agility and digital transformation?
Sure. So, Charlie, you've done a ton of work in this space, and so you're seeing a lot of this stuff. Where does that kind of fit in with the stuff that you're seeing as well?
I think the big question is what's going to become of the previous models we used, in particular IT service management, project management, enterprise architecture. They are all being challenged, I think transformed, and yet the Agile movement just by itself, I think, doesn't answer all of the questions that those older practices set out to answer. Right. And so it's not a matter of we're just going to replace everything,
No.
And we also have staffing issues, there's a lot of talent out there that what are we going to do with all these folks?
Yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there. There is a gap, a chasm between traditional ITIL management and philosophies and project management philosophies, PMP for instance, or PMI, and the new DevOps Agile movements that are underway. So there's this gap here between governance and innovation, where how do you actually achieve the right chemistry, the right combination for, and in our experience talking to our customers, what we found is it's really industry and customer specific in many ways. It's balancing risk with the need to innovate and adopting change, and our customers are trying to understand how to evolve, like I earlier said, how to optimize, and what we're finding is it's almost best to not try to weave everything into one philosophy, one ideological. It's a balance between the two, and in fact, finding carve-outs and having focused teams to go off and do new and different with less governments, in agile and development in DevOps types ways is more effective for customers than trying to solve the complexity of integrating the two. Just don't try to do that at this point.
Yeah, I was at the Australian ITSM conference a few weeks ago, and I spoke to a few people and they're saying it's just so confusing at the moment. They're telling me I need to know SIAM, I need to know DevOps, I've got Lean, I've got Agile, where do I start? There is a lot of confusion in the industry about just where, what you should be learning, what the right direction is to go in. So what is the direction for your average person working currently in service management? What do they do?
That's a great question. And I think Gartner framed it best with their bimodal strategy and that philosophy, I think, holds true, and it gives people some security. You don't throw ITIL out. No. It's going to be around. It's going to be for optimization, though, and for governance. So if assuring your services is a high priority, service quality, if cost is a big issue for you, those types of systems that are more support related, your back office, your, those types of functions, legacy stuff that you may never move, that's where you focus ITIL most heavily on, those processes. Now for new revenue, new initiatives, new lines of business, that's where our clients, I think, really need to focus on they need to kind of unshackle from ITIL and older philosophies that are still very relevant, but that's where you do your experimentation in the new and different world.
You know, it's interesting, you know, as you're speaking to that, you know, and I'm definitely dating myself here, right? You know, when this, you know, this big thing called internet kind of started coming along, and I was, you know, with a big financial services company, and that just made me remember back, you know, many years ago. That's what the group that I was with did. They basically had a whole separate group within IT that focused exclusively on, you know, how do we go to the internet?
Right.
And it took about 3-4 years before it became just, you know, it's part of our normal stuff. And they broke down that whole organization that was dedicated to that. So now, you know, and you know, Charlie and I were talking about this yesterday, and it never registered to me until you just said that. And it's like, wait, this is exactly what we did 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it, you know, again, it's
Absolutely.
just coming right back, but and it worked, right? You have the specialties, you have the specialists, and they go, you know, hardcore into that.
Right.
And then you propagate the knowledge, and then it
Yeah.
becomes just part of the norm.
And I think there's lessons for both sides. You know, from an Agile and DevOps perspective, I think that it's a healthy combination to have in an organization, because then you can actually see what works and doesn't work, and where maybe you need to lessen some governance and increase some governance. I mean, if you know, you don't want to stifle innovation, you don't want to stifle your speed and agility, but you can't let it be the wild, wild west.
Yeah.
Right.
And so there's got to be a demarc line, and those folks will have something to teach the ITIL and PMI folks, and vice versa, I believe. So we'll see how it all evolves
Yeah.
in the coming years. I think
There- I
there's
mean,
a lot
it's
of
certainly-
interesting stuff going on.
Certainly a lot of confusion. I think there is a lot of confusion about just where the paths are going to take you and which direction you're going to go. I mean, you're in the teaching side of things too, Charlie. So you know,
Absolutely.
there must. How do your students find
Well,
it?
I mean,
It's
we're
this-
already seeing impacts in the industry. I mentioned this story just last night, where I was teaching a mini BA class, and there was a number of people in there who'd been recently let go from a large company in Minnesota, and they'd been let go from a lot of the centers of excellence in the traditional old-style centers of excellence in the IT organization, and the statement was made, you know, they let a lot of us go, and there's dozens of DevOps positions open at the same time. I
Yeah.
mean, so I think the educational community needs to step up and
Yeah.
look at what digital transformation means in terms of this workforce, because, you know, we talk of, you know, the billions of dollars. Statements were made downstairs today at the keynote about, you know, the billions of dollars in various technical categories, but really, where does most of the money go? It goes to the people,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's interesting. So who's pushing it? Who do you know, at your client sites, who's pushing this? Is it the top end leadership? Is it the grassroots? Because we know that, you know, that middle piece is, you know,
Right.
the block,
Right.
right? So who are you experiencing the most push from? And when you go into a site, like, okay, we got to get with these people because they're the ones that are gonna
Right.
help us out.
No, that's a great question, and I think you articulated it well. It sort of starts at both the very top and the very bottom. So there's either, you know, a business imperative to do different things, you know, a mandate to change that starts at the top, and I shouldn't say or, it's not one or the other. They're both typically there. There's this grassroots movement of people that are embracing automation and embracing that culture of collaboration to innovate and engineer. And, you know, when we go into an organization, you know, we build relationships with the folks that are in the trenches that are doing the engineering. There's a lot of passion and interest there that it's great to tap and see that, you know, these folks are, you know, captivated by being able to create and having, you know, the capacity to change the business, and that's really a great feeling. And then at the top, usually the executives are struggling with, and the business side as well, is how do we transform our business? How do we do things new and different? We're too slow. We're going to be disrupted and outpaced by others in the industry that have embraced these principles.
Right.
So it's you know, from our perspective, it's both sides, and again, in the middle, it's the knowing-doing gap. It's management trying to figure out, well, how do I do this?
Yeah. And it's that whole balancing thing. It's
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
keeping business as usual going at the same time getting that innovation up, and that's
Right, and they look to partners for guidance in that, you know, and
Yeah.
outside opinions, and because you can't ask people in the organization, they're somewhat, you know, blinded by, you know, everyday processes
Well, that's right.
and what
Yeah.
they've grown up and they know. So you really need some infusion of outside knowledge to help
Yep.
get that spark. And our recommendation again is focus teams. I think you have to be very deliberate if you really want to change. You can't I mean, you can have a program to change your legacy environments. Those are great, but you need to kind of divorce yourselves from old processes and old ways of doing things if you truly want to become more agile.
And then, of course, as we all know, once you get those sort of process changes moving, you've still got to change the culture and you've got to change the people,
absolutely.
and that's the tough bit.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you cross-pollinate to bring that back to once you've got innovation? It's a key challenge for a lot of companies.
Very good. Well, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. It's been great.
Yeah,
I
it's
appreciate
been
you having me.
Pleasure chatting to you.
Yep.
Thank you, Rodger.
Thank you.
Thanks.